The Bat Clan leader has to deal with a time-tampering temperature drop. Here's a look at the McFarlane Toys Page Punchers Batman fighting the frozen Batman. Theorizing absolute zero experimentation would slow the disease inflicting his wife Nora, Mr. Freeze and his beloved bride are accidentally thrust 16,000 years into the past. Seeking to return to their proper century, the frigid fiend attempts to recreate the unintentional circumstances of his time manipulation experiment, callously unleashing a deadly new ice age upon the surrounding lands. Robin, a brave young warrior from a neighboring tribe, pleads for aid from Batman, the noble leader of the Bat Clan. Recognizing the existential threat to his peoples, Batman, Robin, and the stoic Batgirl forge an alliance to stop the criminal King of Cold. Just before we look at a little more caveman of a Cape Crusader, I'd like to first thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Page Punchers Batman fighting the frozen Batman that we could have a look at in this review. I'm also as well going to grab the tape measure as I always do, and also as well I'm going to bring in a couple of figures for comparisons, but let's not fast forward too far ahead in this review. First, the figure of Batman is going to stand about 7.5 inches in height, or the figure is going to be about 19 centimeters tall. And to bring in a few more bats of various builds, first I wanted to show you guys what the Batman looks like from Forever Frozen, along with, of course, the Cape Crusader from the Nightfall series. Again, there's quite a mass difference between the two. Here's also what the figure looks like with the Batman that came along with Spawn, which just happens to also be the same build that we also got as well with the Hush Batman, and also the Vampire Batman. And here's as well what the figure looks like with also a slightly altered Batman. Here's what he also looks like, if I can get him to stand, with the Batman from Zur-En-Arrh. Page Puncher figures all tend to come include with comics, and no different is the case when it comes to Batman as he comes include with Fighting the Frozen. Not only seems to be issue 1, but also as well, judging by the end last page, which I'm not going to flip through because obviously if anybody wants to read this themselves, it seems to be also a one-shot, potentially possibly even leading to a future story. And I say future even though it takes place 16,000 years in the past. But though on the front here, we've got some really great artwork from Lee Inuik. I'm sure I'm butchering the poor man's name. Sorry for that though, Lee, if you happen to be watching this review. But though featured on the front is some fantastic artwork by Lee, and it will continue, it seems, into the interior pages, as not only we have a really interesting looking Batman, but one of the coolest, no pun intended, designs for Mr. Freeze I've seen in a while. Honestly, even though I'm going to be looking at the reviews starting first with Batman, the reason why I wanted to even pick up this wave in the first place was more for Mr. Freeze. I just really think the design of the character is interesting. He looks like a Scooby-Doo villain. Though quickly flipping again through the pages, Mr. Freeze essentially devises the machine that blows him back 16,000 years and inadvertently causes a frozen winter in the landscape. Robin, a neighboring tribe, has to go then find Batman, and between him, Batman, and Batgirl have to then stop Mr. Freeze. And again, without getting to the very end of it, I don't want to spoil anything in case anybody does in fact want to read this. It does seem like it is going to be a one-shot issue. Like usually is also the case with the Page Puncher figures, like the comics tend to also have different varying covers. The one I'm looking at for Mr. Freeze right now, who's off to the side here, happens to also have his own brand new cover, and that's also the case with both Robin and Batgirl as well. Really nice looking comic. I'm looking forward to sitting down and reading that. The figure also, though, comes included with a trading card. The trading card happens to have the same artwork featured on the front comic, and then, of course, it has Batman down below here. It gives you really a chance as well to see, again, like the artwork just on a smaller scale. I really like, again, like the black border added to this as well, and the pop of the red down below really works quite nicely. The back does have that read-up. I just happened to read at the beginning of the video. Just once again to express the idea that Mr. Freeze uses an experimental invention that sends him then back in time along with his wife Nora and causes cataclysmic temperature drops that, of course, Robin, Batman, and Batgirl all have to then stop. Really nice looking card. Again, I'm liking the fact that they actually used source material, even though the source material this time around seems to only still be a one-shot. Going to move those to the side. As a side note, you may have seen the struggle at the beginning of this video trying to open up the clamshell. Strange for this one, though, is that the smaller Page Punch figures that we've looked at some here on this channel tend to usually be the ones that you just kind of open up and remove the perforations. This time around with the larger Page Punchers, I literally had to cut an outline with my knife to try to get the contents inside. And luckily, though, the comic wasn't destroyed in the process. Yeah, I know I've yammered on long enough. Just yammering on one last time. The figure also comes included with a black display stand. Nothing really new to report here. It's just the same black stands that we always get with the DC Multiverse figures. But again, I appreciate the fact that we get it. I'm going to move that to also the side. The figure also comes with two things that can be bludgeoning. This bludgeoning Batman comes included with, first of all, sort of like an axe, like a one-sided axe. Ironically enough, though, if you look at it this way, it kind of looks the top half of a bat. I'm sure that's intentional. The only thing, of course, missing would be the bottom of the bat logo. Whereas this one, we actually get a fully developed, fully sculpted out bat symbol, making the double-sided axe even more dangerous. The way that they've actually sculpted both of these, I really like that they look like they're hand-forged, especially when you look at the double-sided axe. Though not being sharp, you can definitely feel like there's a nice little edge to it. And these can be held in either one of Batman's hands, as the figure does come included with gripping hands. No alternate hands this time around. The figure only just has gripping hands and gripping hands alone, and I really don't think he necessarily needed any other things than the things that are going to be holding his accessories. The figure accessory hand holding, well, that's a tongue twister to get out, involves only just to pry the plastic away from the palm, just because, again, like with these handles being as big as they are, they're a little harder to kind of get in between the fingers. You don't have to necessarily heat the hand in hot water. Sort of have to just guide the handle down until eventually Batman can hold it. And then we'll do the exact same thing then on the other side. Just go ahead and grab that. Get the handle into, of course, his grip. Now Batman can actually wield both weapons. Not only does he have weapons that he can wield, but also, if I can just get the figure to stand here as well, one thing that's kind of cool about the figure is that they have taken the design of the Bat costume, essentially, and translated that to what Batman could essentially look like if he was a cave person. One such interesting feature is the fact that not only does he have, let's actually just remove his weapons for right now, not only does he have the trademark Bat logo here on the front of his chest, which I would imagine would be probably the same material, the stone that he actually used to make the weapon. I would imagine that would be quite painful then if he has to crunch or bend down, crouch forward, because that I'm sure would puncture him in the front of the chest every single time. But the other interesting thing about this is he has a makeshift utility belt. If I just move this up, he has things that would be practical for the time period in which this sets. So he's got like a little spike. He has almost what looks to be a batarang. He's got a few little actual stakes. And he actually has also as well a rope whip. But I think it's neat that the fact that they actually included, I said actually several times, that they put a little bat symbol there in the middle of it to, again, make it look like the utility belt that Batman would have in the present time. Looking at his head sculpt, I mean, it's a nice looking Batman. I will say, though, about the ears are made of softer plastic, so you don't really have to worry about them necessarily. But I will say, though, if you decide down the road you want to pack this guy away and store him, say, in a baggie, I'm sure those ears will start to probably fold inward, or they're probably going to get a little bit more warped, just because, again, the softer plastic that they used. He has a rather interesting side profile. Now, with the cowl looks to be, it's probably like stitched together leather from maybe one of the animals that Batman has battled before. He also has a fur shoulder area here as well that's sort of taped or roped around the symbol that he has. So this is probably just all one piece that he would put over top of his body. What's rather interesting, though, it doesn't look like it straps to anything else. So again, if Batman is fighting and moving things around, like the whole top of his shoulder, I would imagine, would just shift around in battle. I'm surprised he doesn't actually strap that down a little bit better than what he has. But it's a nice, interesting sculpting to not only the figure's face. One thing I will say, though, about the figure's face is, in a way, I would have liked, really, if the figure could have had a little bit of a grimace on his face. I mean, because, again, like the eyes are painted well in white, but there's really not a lot of personality happening. He sort of has more of just a somber look on his face. I think a little bit of visible teeth, whether they be off-colored or not, I think would really help to really make the figure look a little bit more, got a little bit more energy, I would say, to the sculpting. As for the rest of the figure's body, though, it looks really good. I like the way they've actually added these little spikes there sticking out the sides that he has on his gauntlets. These, by the way, be careful of these. The few times I've moved the figure's arms around, I keep pricking myself against these giant spikes. This one especially, while it is softer plastic, if you're grabbing it from the wrong side, like if you're pulling it here, for example, you can really feel it against your skin. Spin the figure, though, on around to the back. You can see the way they've sculpted the cape. Now, I would imagine that this would probably be like a pelt that he would have probably used for the cape. There's no necessarily stitch lines other than the ones he has in the middle here, so it's probably like 3 parts that he would have sewn then together, and it makes for a serviceable cape. It actually looks really quite good. He's got a loincloth here on the back that actually has as well the front there. I don't know really how he would have come across trunks back then. I would imagine, like, if we were to look at this from a realistic perspective, he probably wouldn't have had anything underneath the loincloth. But that's, I'm sure, a sight you guys wouldn't want to have seen. He does also as well have boots down below here. One side of his boots sort of looks like something a He-Man would have, and then the other side he has like a kneecap plate. It's strange that he wouldn't have had it on both sides, but I guess in this case they just wanted to make things a little bit non-symmetrical. And of course he does have, as always, pegs on the undersides of his figure's feet. For the figure's articulation, going back to Batman's head, it rotates all the way around on a ball joint. It does allow a figure to look up about that high and about that low. When you have it lower too, you can also see as well the additional sculpting that they had to the back of the cowl. It really, again, looks like just tattered material, like tattered leather that he was sewn then together. You can actually even see the little stitching that he's got on the back of it. Attentions to details don't get missed here. The arms do rotate, of course, all the way around. You can hinge the arms quite easily out, but at 90 degrees. You can swivel the figure's arms at the bicep, and that's the case on both sides as well. He also has he has these little veins also sculpted in the shoulders. Nice little attentions to detail. Like, this Batman is buff. I mean, look at the veins that he has, for example, on his biceps. He's got also as well, it seems to be a little bit of veinage there on the top of his torso there as well. It's a really, again, a very muscular looking Batman. Hands do swivel all the way around. Did I even touch base on the fact the figure does have a double hinge on the elbow? So if you wanted to have, for example, Batman carrying around his axe sort of resting on his shoulder, you can easily pull that off with the double hinge joint provided. Legs do split out. Once again, they're on ratcheted joints. You can take the legs and move forward. You can move them back. There is a swivel, obviously, at the top of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. And then the feet easily move up and down this way. You can also rock them back, obviously, this way. And the figure also has, even though for primitive days, the figure still possesses a hinge on the feet. So overall, like, a really nice looking Batman. It's a bit of a different take. It's sort of one of those Elseworld stories. But I really like the look of Batman. Of course, with this wave being Batman, Mr. Freeze, Robin, and Batgirl, I did want to start things off. It's Batman's title, after all. I did, though, want to start off with Batman. Batman turned out to be a great looking figure, but honestly, the whole time I've been looking at Batman, I keep kind of looking over at the side here at Mr. Freeze. That's a figure I'm really looking forward to opening up and getting a closer look at, and also showing you guys how cool, no pun intended, he actually does look. I know, the ongoing commentary when it comes to McFarlane releases and DC multiverses, we get a lot of Batmans. Now, every once in a while, though, it is nice to get a Batman that really does break the Bat mold and give us something completely different. Literally to the point where looks like they probably used a brand new mold, something that we have not yet seen before. But with the muscular build that they did give this particular Batman, I think they could probably use it again for a future figure. Probably not likely going to be a Batman, but I'm sure they probably could use it for something down the road. There's, of course, a lot of additional sculpting that had to go into this figure, brand new accessories we've never seen before. And even though while the colors are all kind of more earth-grounded, because again, like, they're using mostly browns and all the things that a caveman Cape Crusader would have at his disposal, it does make for a rather interesting looking Batman. Painful, I would imagine, still, to have him kind of leaning forward if he has to grab something on the ground and having this stone bat symbol digging into his skin. Either way, though, really interesting looking Batman. I'm glad that this one was actually released. And again, even though my interest really is still being distracted by Mr. Freeze to the side here, I do think that Batman as a whole turned out to be a great looking figure. Big thank you once again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample of the Fighting the Frozen Batman Page Puncher figure that we had the chance to have a look at in this review. Have you had the chance to get any of these figures from Fighting the Frozen, and what do you guys think of them? Let me know down below in the comments section. Certainly also as well, if you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit it a like. If you guys are enjoying the content you guys are seeing, and certainly would like to see the rest of the Fighting the Frozen figure line, rest assured we will also be looking at the rest of the three figures. That's Mr. Freeze, that's Robin, and that's Batgirl. I'm sure in that particular order, not saying that Batgirl is my least favorite, just saying though that Mr. Freeze is my favorite of this line. If you guys also as well, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and you're also turning on as well the bell notification. Let's just say you have a little bit of also time on your hands. You have no real plans for the rest of the afternoon. You want to check out more on this channel. Popping up also at the very end of this video will also be a playlist of other things I've looked at from McFarlane's team. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.